The Forbidden Planet. The Galactic Concord had stood for 12,000 years, uniting thousands of species across the spiral arms in peace and prosperity. Its oldest founding members, the Etheri, were revered throughout civilized space as the wisest beings in existence. Their crystalline bodies housed minds that had witnessed the rise and fall of stars, their memories stretching back millions of years. They were philosophers, scientists, and guides, the gentle elders who had shepherded younger races into the interstellar community since time immemorial. Yet despite their benevolence, one strange behavior had puzzled the Concord for millennia. The Etheri's inexplicable fear of a small blue-green world in an unremarkable system at the edge of the Orion Arm, Earth. The Etheri never spoke of it. Their ancient star charts marked the Sol system with warning symbols that had never been fully translated. Any mention of the planet in their presence caused their crystalline forms to dim and vibrate with unmistakable dread. For thousands of years, this had been accepted as one of the great mysteries of the galaxy, an eccentric taboo of the eldest race that the younger species respected without understanding. Until now. Captain Nira Solis stood at the viewport of the research vessel Horizon as it decelerated toward the edge of the Sol system. Her scaled hands clasped behind her back, amber eyes fixed on the distant yellow star that had been forbidden for so long. "We're breaking a 12,000-year prohibition," said her first officer, Tech, a methane-breathing Volari, whose transparent exoskeleton revealed the nervous fluttering of his internal organs. "The Etheri Council will have our commissions for this." "The Etheri Council approved this mission, Tech," Nira replied, not turning from the viewport, reluctantly, and only after the discovery. The discovery. 3 months earlier, a routine archaeological expedition on an abandoned Etheri outpost had unearthed records dating back to their early spacefaring days. Among them was a detailed account of Earth, not as a source of fear, but as something far more troubling: a prison. "The preliminary scans are coming in," announced Elix, their chief scientist, a hyper-intelligent cephalopod suspended in a gravity-manipulating harness. His tentacles danced over holographic displays, strange energy readings, just as the archives suggested. "But something else is there too. Life signs?" Nira asked, finally turning from the viewport. "Billions of them," Elix confirmed, surprise evident in his voice. "Concentrated on continental landmasses. Technological civilization. Pre-FTL development." "That's impossible," Tech chittered, his exoskeleton clouding with stress hormones. The Etheri records clearly stated that Earth was to remain uninhabited, a containment facility only. Nira approached the console, studying the readings herself. "The records are over 9 million years old, Tech. Things change." She straightened. Decision made. "Prepare a landing party. We'll observe from orbit for 72 hours, then make contact if conditions seem favorable." Tech's internal organs nearly tied themselves in knots. "Captain, with respect, we were authorized to investigate from a safe distance, not to make contact with potential hostiles. These hostiles appear to be normal organic life forms with no special capabilities beyond basic tool use and social organization," Nira said. "Standard Protocol 7 applies. Observation followed by diplomatic contact." Elix's tentacles curled thoughtfully. "Unless they're not the prisoners, but the prison guards." The thought hung in the air between them, uncomfortable and unsettling. 3 days of observation only deepened the mystery. The natives, humans, they called themselves, were indeed an unremarkable carbon-based species. Their technology was primitive by Concord standards. Combustion engines, limited spaceflight capabilities, primitive digital systems. They warred amongst themselves, created art, built cities, and generally behaved like any other emerging intelligence. Nothing about them explained the Etheri's fear. The landing party touched down in a remote area of the continent humans called North America, cloaking technology concealing their shuttle from detection. Nira led the team of 6, including Elix, and despite his reservations, Tech. They wore environmental suits calibrated to resemble local fauna at a distance, a precaution that proved unnecessary in the dense forest where they landed. The energy signature is strongest 2 kilometers east, Elix reported, consulting his instruments. Underground. They moved through the forest cautiously, sensors alert for human presence. The planet itself seemed ordinary enough. Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, moderate gravity, abundant liquid water. Pleasant, even with its diverse ecosystem and temperate climate. "I don't understand," Tech said as they hiked through a ravine. "There's nothing special about this world. Why would the most advanced species in the galaxy fear it?" According to the recovered archives, Elix said they don't fear the planet itself. They fear what's contained here. "And what exactly is that?" Tech demanded. Nira answered, her voice low. The record called it the hunger between stars. Nothing more specific. They reached a small clearing dominated by an unusual geological formation, a perfectly circular depression about 30 meters across, ringed by weathered stone columns half buried in the earth. At its center stood a single monolith of black material unlike any natural stone. "The energy readings are off the scale," Elix whispered, his tentacles quivering with excitement. "This is it. This is what the Etheri were protecting." "Protecting? Or hiding from?" Tech asked. Nira approached the monolith cautiously. Its surface was smooth as glass, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. No markings were visible, but as she drew closer, she felt a strange vibration through her suit. Not physical, but something almost psychic, tugging at the edges of her consciousness. "There's something alive about this," she said. Elix extended a specialized sensing tentacle toward the monolith. "It's not just a stone. It's a door. And beneath it." His words were cut off by a sudden tremor that shook the clearing. The ground rumbled, and the columns around them began to glow with symbols that hadn't been visible before. Symbols identical to the warning marks on ancient Etheri star charts. "We should leave," Tech said urgently. "Now." Before they could move, the earth split open between them and the monolith, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. Cold air rushed up from below, carrying a scent that their suits' filters couldn't completely neutralize. Ancient dust and something else. Something wrong. Nira made a decision. "Elix, Tech, with me. The rest of you, secure the perimeter and maintain contact. If we don't return in 3 hours, leave and report to the Concord." The stairs led deep beneath the earth, illuminated by strips of a luminescent material embedded in the walls. The architecture was unlike anything they had seen before, neither human nor Etheri, but something older. The walls were covered in pictographs depicting strange, elongated figures and astronomical events that Nira didn't recognize. "This facility predates human civilization by millions of years," Elix observed, scanning the walls. "But it's been maintained. See how clean everything is. No dust, no decay." "Maintained by whom?" Tech asked, but no one answered. They reached the bottom of the staircase and entered a vast chamber that stretched beyond the reach of their lights. As they advanced, the chamber revealed itself section by section, a massive complex of machinery surrounding a central platform. On the platform stood what appeared to be a containment vessel, a transparent cylinder filled with swirling darkness. "By all the stars," Elix breathed, "it's a prison." Nira approached the cylinder cautiously. The darkness within seemed to move with purpose, pressing against the transparent walls as if testing them. It didn't behave like any form of matter she had ever encountered. "What is it?" she asked. "Something that shouldn't exist in our universe," came a voice from behind them. They spun around to find themselves facing a group of humans. 5 of them, wearing simple clothing but carrying devices that Nira's suit identified as weapons. Their leader stepped forward, a woman with dark skin and eyes that reflected the chamber's dim light. "You are trespassing in a restricted area," the woman said. but I suspect you don't know what you've stumbled into. Nira straightened, activating her suit's translation protocols. I am Captain Nira Solis of the Galactic Concord. We come in peace, seeking knowledge. The woman seemed unsurprised by their alien appearance. I am Director Maya Chen of Earth Defense Initiative. And you found knowledge that has cost civilizations their existence. She gestured to the cylinder. That entity is older than your Concord, older than the Aetheri who helped us build this prison. It feeds on sentient thought, grows stronger with every mind it touches. The Aetheri encountered it first, lost 3 star systems before they managed to contain it here, on a world far from their own territories. How do you know about the Aetheri? Tech demanded. Earth hasn't made contact with the broader galactic community. Maya smiled thinly. The Aetheri have been coming here since before humans evolved, maintaining the prison. When we developed sufficient intelligence, they revealed themselves to a select few. Established the EDI to help guard this facility. We're the second line of defense. Against what? Nira asked, looking back at the cylinder where the darkness had gathered at the side closest to them, as if listening. We call it the void consciousness. It came from another reality where the laws of physics differ from our own. Here, it can't maintain stable form without a host, but once it finds one. Maya's expression darkened. It consumes the host's mind and uses the body to create technology that would allow it to stabilize its existence in our universe. If it ever escaped, it would spread across the galaxy like a plague, consuming all sentient life. Helix moved closer to the cylinder, fascinated despite the warning. The Aetheri records called it the hunger between stars. An apt description. Maya nodded. We've been its jailers for thousands of years, though few of our people know it exists. The Aetheri visit less frequently now. They believe that our unpredictable nature actually helps confuse and contain the entity. It can't easily influence minds it doesn't understand. Nira absorbed this information, pieces falling into place. That's why the Aetheri fear Earth, not because of humans, but because of what's imprisoned here. And because they know that one day the prison will fail, Maya said quietly. All things decay with time, even prisons built by the oldest species in the galaxy. As if responding to her words, the cylinder emitted a low humming sound. The darkness within pulsed, and for a moment, Nira could have sworn she saw a face form in the swirling void. A face with too many eyes, and a smile that stretched impossibly wide. Then a klaxon sounded, red emergency lights flooding the chamber. What's happening? Nira demanded as her team moved closer together, instinctively defensive. Maya's face had gone pale. She barked orders into a communication device, then turned to the aliens with fear in her eyes. Containment breach in progress. You need to leave. Now. We can help, Nira offered. The Horizon has technology that. No. Maya cut her off. You need to warn the Concord. Tell the Aetheri that Protocol Omega is in effect. She looked back at the cylinder, where hairline fractures had begun to appear in the transparent material. What we've always feared is happening. The void consciousness is waking up. The darkness within the cylinder swirled faster, pressing against the weakening walls with growing intensity. As the fractures spread, tendrils of void began to seep through like black smoke, reaching toward the humans and aliens with hungry purpose. Run, Maya shouted, her team already activating some kind of energy barrier around the cylinder. Tell them Earth has fallen. Captain Nira hesitated only a moment before giving the order to retreat. As they raced back toward the stairs, the chamber behind them erupted with flashes of energy and the sound of shattering glass. The last thing Nira saw before they reached the surface was darkness flooding the ancient chamber, and the silhouettes of the human defenders standing firm against the tide of void. The first casualties in a war that had been 9 million years in the making. The secret of Earth was no longer a mystery, but the nightmare had only just begun. The awakening. The Horizon broke orbit at emergency acceleration, its engines straining as Captain Nira Solis issued rapid commands to her stunned crew. The data they'd collected was already transmitting to Concord headquarters via quantum relay. The strange energy readings, the ancient facility, the fractured prison, and the desperate warning from the humans who had guarded it for millennia. Set course for the nearest ethery outpost, Nira ordered. Maximum speed. Tech, still trembling from their narrow escape, monitored the planet below. Captain, something's happening to Earth's atmosphere. On the main view screen, swirls of darkness were visible spreading across the blue planet like ink in water. Where they passed, city lights winked out in expanding circles of blackness. The void consciousness, Elix said quietly, his tentacles moving restlessly. It's consuming the human defenders and expanding. Naira's hands tightened on the command rail. Can the humans contain it? Unknown, Elix replied. They seemed prepared, but the entity was already breaking free. Without aethery assistance, a flash of light from the planet's surface interrupted him, a massive energy discharge visible even from orbit. The darkness recoiled momentarily, contracting around the point of impact. They're fighting back, Nira observed, but we need to bring help. As the Horizon prepared to jump to FTL, their communications officer suddenly straightened. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. Audio only. Put it through, Nira ordered. The voice that filled the bridge was Maya Chen's, but strained with effort and punctuated by sounds of battle. Concord vessel, do not leave orbit. Repeat, do not leave. We've activated the Luminous Protocol, but we need your assistance. The entity is vulnerable to certain energy frequencies your ship can generate. Without your help, we cannot contain the breach. Nira exchanged glances with her officers. To remain would risk everything. Their ship, their lives, possibly even exposing the entity to advanced technology it could use. Director Chen, she responded after a moment. How can you be certain we won't make the situation worse? Because the aethery left us instructions, Maya replied. For precisely this scenario, your shield harmonics, reconfigure them to match the following pattern and direct them at the primary breach site. Data streamed to the Horizon's computers. Complex energy modulation patterns that Elix confirmed matched some of the technology he'd seen in the underground facility. It's consistent with ethery containment methods, he reported. They clearly prepared for this possibility. Nira made her decision. Belay previous orders. Move us into low orbit above the breach site. Reconfigure shields as instructed. As the Horizon descended into the atmosphere, they got their first clear view of the battle below. The darkness had spread across hundreds of kilometers, but was concentrated most densely at the site of the original facility. Surrounding this epicenter was a ring of brilliant light, energy barriers projected from facilities that had remained hidden until now. And rising from scattered locations around the globe were objects that defied explanation. Massive crystalline structures that hadn't been visible during their initial scans, now emerging from oceans and mountain ranges, their surfaces glowing with the same energy signature as the underground chamber. Those aren't human-made, Tech observed unnecessarily. No, Nira agreed. The aethery left more than just guardians. They left weapons. The Horizon positioned itself directly above the primary breach, where the darkness boiled up from the earth like a geyser of pure void. Following Maya's instructions, they reconfigured their shields to project downward in a concentrated beam, tuned to the precise frequency that the aethery had determined would weaken the entity. The effect was immediate. Where the beam touched the darkness, it hissed and recoiled, creating a cylindrical clear zone that stretched from the ship to the ground. Through this opening, they could see human defenders in advanced combat suits, technology far beyond what Earth should possess, fighting at the edge of the breach. They've been keeping secrets, Elix observed, analyzing the human technology. Those suits incorporate ethery principles. The aethery haven't just been visiting. They've been preparing humans. Nira opened the communications channel again. Director Chen, our beam is stabilizing the breach perimeter, but we can't maintain this indefinitely. What's your plan? Maya's voice came through clearer now. We're activating the global containment network. The Aetheri built it into Earth's crust millions of years ago. It was designed as a last resort, to convert the entire planet into a prison if necessary. The entire planet. Nira echoed in disbelief. What about the human population? Most are already evacuating via emergency shelters that will take them deep beneath the ocean floor. Those who remain on the surface are either defenders like us, or, she paused, or already lost to the entity. We can't save everyone, Captain. We never expected to. Around the world, the crystalline structures were now fully emerged, creating a network of energy that began to connect in the upper atmosphere, weaving a glowing web above the planet. What do you need from us? Nira asked. Hold the breach for another 7 minutes. That's how long until the network fully activates. Once it does, you'll need to break away immediately. The energy discharge will disable any technology within Earth's orbit. The next 7 minutes were the longest of Nira's life. The darkness below grew more frenzied, sensing the trap closing around it. It sent tendrils probing at the horizon's energy beam, testing for weaknesses. Twice it nearly broke through, forcing them to divert power from life support to maintain the shield. On the ground, the human defenders fought with extraordinary courage. When the darkness consumed one of their number, the others didn't hesitate or retreat. They pressed forward, using their fallen comrade's fate as an opportunity to deliver killing blows to the entity while it was momentarily distracted by assimilation. Their tactics are effective, Tech noted with reluctant admiration. They sacrifice themselves to create vulnerabilities. They're buying time, Nira realized. They know they won't survive. As the global network neared completion, Maya contacted them one final time. 30 seconds to activation. Withdraw now, Captain, and tell the Concord, tell the Aetheri, that humanity kept our promise. We contained it until the end. We'll tell them, Nira promised. Director Chen, Maya, your people's sacrifice won't be forgotten. There was a moment of silence before Maya's final words came through. Perhaps not all sacrifices are endings, Captain. The Aetheri taught us that. Now go. The horizon broke away just as the crystalline network completed its circuit. The energy web above Earth contracted suddenly, plunging downward to encompass the entire planet in a blinding flash of light. When the glare faded, Earth was encased in a shimmering barrier that pulsed with complex patterns, a planet-sized prison cell. Inside, the darkness that had escaped was being forced back, compressed by the network's power, driven toward the original containment site. The last images their sensors captured showed the entity fighting against the inexorable pull, but losing ground with each passing moment. In the sudden quiet of the horizon's bridge, Elix spoke first. The containment is holding. The entity is being resealed. And the humans? Nira asked softly. Elix's tentacles moved in a gesture of uncertainty. Life signs remain, but concentrated in the deep ocean facilities. Surface population. He paused. Minimal. Nira stared at the view screen, at the beautiful blue world now encased in a cage of light. Set course for the Aetheri homeworld, she ordered. Maximum speed. 3 weeks later, Nira stood before the Aetheri High Council, the crystalline beings towering above her on their raised days. Their forms shifted between solid and light, an indication of their extreme age and accumulated wisdom. She had delivered her report in full, including the data they'd collected and the final messages from Earth's defenders. The First Elder, a being so ancient that her crystalline form was nearly translucent, addressed Nira directly. We have received and processed your report, Captain Solis. The sacrifice of the human guardians was not unexpected, but remains significant. They saved the galaxy, Nira said firmly. At the cost of their world, they deserve recognition, and they shall have it, the First Elder assured her. But there is more you should understand about what you witnessed. The entity you call the Void Consciousness is merely one of many such intrusions from neighboring realities. Earth was chosen as a prison world not by chance, but because humans possess a unique quality. What quality? Nira asked. Adaptability, another elder answered, his voice resonating like wind through crystal. Humans evolve faster, mentally, culturally, even physically, than any species we have encountered in our long history. This makes them both dangerous and invaluable. The first elder continued, when we first discovered Earth, humans were primitive creatures, barely sentient. But we recognized their potential. Over millions of years, we have guided their development subtly, preparing them for the role they would eventually play. You engineered humanity to be prison guards? Nira asked, unable to keep the shock from her voice. No, the first elder corrected. We recognized their natural potential and helped them fulfill it. The qualities that make humans effective guardians against entities like the void consciousness, their unpredictability, their emotional range, their capacity for both self-sacrifice and ruthless survival. These were all inherent to their species. We merely ensured these traits remained strong. Elix, who had been permitted to attend the council meeting, raised a tentacle. The human defenders. They knew they would likely die, yet they fought anyway. Why? A younger elder answered, because that too is uniquely human. They understand sacrifice in ways other species struggle to comprehend. They can simultaneously value their individual existence and willingly surrender it for a greater purpose. What happens now? Nira asked. Earth is sealed, but the humans in the deep shelters, what becomes of them? The first elder's form shifted, patterns of light moving through her crystalline body, in what Nira had learned to recognize as the ethereal equivalent of contemplation. The containment network was designed with two purposes, she finally said. To imprison the entity, yes, but also to protect and nurture what remains of humanity. The sheltered populations will eventually return to the surface, rebuild their civilization, and they will continue to guard the prison, as they have done for thousands of years. But they've lost so much, Nira protested. Their cities, their history. They have lost a chapter, not their story, the first elder corrected gently. This is not the first time human civilization has faced near extinction, Captain. Their resilience is perhaps their most remarkable quality. They will emerge, adapt, rebuild, and in time, they may even find their way to the stars. Will the Concord acknowledge them then? Nira asked. Recognize their sacrifice. The council was silent for a long moment before the first elder spoke again. When humanity reaches the stars, they will come not as a minor species seeking admission to the Concord, but as equals to even the ethereal. What they have endured, what they continue to endure as guardians of reality's boundaries, has earned them that right. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, a real-time image of Earth, still encased in its prison of light, but with the darkness now fully contained at the original breach site. We fear Earth, Captain Solus, not because of what is imprisoned there, but because of what guards it. Humanity's potential is unlimited. They are adaptable, resourceful, and capable of both great compassion and terrible violence. In time, they may surpass even us, and when they do, the galaxy will never be the same. As Nira gazed at the image of Earth, she remembered Maya Chen's final words. Perhaps not all sacrifices are endings. She understood now what the human director had meant. This wasn't the end of humanity's story. It was merely the beginning of a new chapter. And when humans finally reached the stars, Nira vowed she would be there to welcome them as the heroes they had proven themselves to be. The guardians of reality. The satyrs who had sacrificed their world to protect a galaxy that didn't even know they existed. The species that had earned the fear and respect of even the Aetheri themselves. Humanity.